Hope everybody had a great weekend and a great start to your week. For you, those of you in the Eastern United States, I hope you're able to stay warm. Just while we're getting started, a few bits of housekeeping, just so everybody knows, you will see a Q&A panel up at the top of your screen. Go ahead and add your questions there as you think of them. We will get to them at the end of the webinar. By putting them there, make sure you don't forget. If we answer your question along the way, you can always mark it as resolved, and then that will take care of that. We've had some users in previous webinars that have at times difficulty seeing the content. The solution for that, so everybody's aware, is if you click on the view at the top of the screen, go to more options, make sure you click that add shared display button if you have any view issues, and that should clear that up. We'll also be adding some polls throughout the presentation just to kind of keep you engaged, get some answers from you so we can make sure we direct the material in a way that's going to be the most beneficial to you. As such, after this weekend, we'd like to ask the question that's on top of everybody's mind. So our first question that we'd like to ask in the poll, just kind of get you used to answering those polls. We'll be popping up here in just a moment. And there it is. The question is, who are you rooting for to win the Super Bowl, and why is it the Seahawks? All right, I'm really liking the way these answers are going so far. Thank you very much. Go Hawks.
Keith, the Seattle in you is coming out in full force today. I can see it.
The Seattle in me comes out every day. All righty, there's one person that's obviously going to need more help than everybody else because they think the Patriots, but that's fine. Nobody's perfect. So as we kind of move along, you kind of see how polls work. We want to talk to you about kind of who the panelists you're going to be speaking with today are. I myself am Heath Madison. I'm our Senior Director of Professional Services. So everything we do proactive in nature. When we talk about helping you take advantage of the licenses you have or those kind of items, it's my job to make sure you're getting what you need and you're happy at the end of the day with that. But one thing you'll notice is I don't mention being a licensing expert. So what I did is I brought 3 experts on the phone with me to make sure you're getting what you need out of this webinar. So I'll start off with Anton.
Hi there, my name is Anton. I sit on the account executive team here at TrustedTech. Every day I work with organizations who want to optimize their Microsoft 365 environment and figure out what their renewal is going to look like. So I'm happy to be here, but I'll pass it over to Andrew.
Awesome. Thanks, Anton. Yeah, my name's Andrew Castro. I've been with the company for just about 5 years now. Actually started over on the acquisition team sitting alongside Anton, and now I'm one of the tier 1 account managers here. So I focus on primarily the renewal aspect of your 365 environment. Andrew Ramos.
Thanks. Not to be confused with Andrew Castro team, also a dedicated account manager here at TrustedTech. Been with the organization about 3 years now. Sit and work closely with a lot of our clients to expand their Microsoft licensing, right? Figure out what works best for them and where we can assist when it comes to what their security and compliance features needed are. So Heath, I think we got a lot to chat about today regarding security and compliance and licensing. So I'll pass it back to you.
All right, wonderful. So let's talk about what we will be going through today. So we're going to go into a deep dive on the kind of different features of different SKUs when it comes to Microsoft 365. We're going to talk about some strategies and options around renewal and how you can make sure you're maximizing what you're getting in the most cost-effective way. We are going to talk about, thanks Andy for teeing this one up, security and compliance impact and how that impacts the renewals. ways to save money. We all like to do that. You know, none of us, I believe, have an unlimited budget. Those days are long behind us. I miss the .com days very much. Budgets were a little different then, but now they're not. So we want to also talk about once you've renewed, how do you optimize what you're doing? And then we're going to go into a Q&A session with the experts. So as it gets started, I'm going to ask a whole question that's a little bit more geared than the Super Bowl towards this content. And that question is, what Microsoft license do you currently use for the majority of your organization? Obviously, we have lots of options from Business Premium, Business Basic, the E3 and E5 licenses. If you're using ME3 or ME5, please go ahead and respond there as well. Quite a good mix. It's interesting to see some Business Premium, E3s, E5s, no Business Basics, and then there's a mix of SKUs, which is pretty common across our customers. So great stuff. I love what Microsoft's done with some of the bundling, and I think you're going to see that with the changes coming, there's actually a lot of benefit to that. So to get right into our content, though, beyond the SKUs, I'd like to hand it off to Andrew to kind of talk about what's going on with the dreaded price increase and what that means for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Heath. Yeah, as I'm sure the reason why most of you are here, the pretty much bulk of the Microsoft price increase is going to be hitting everyone starting July 1st, 2026. This is going to be Microsoft's first price increase since 2022. And when it's actually going to be affecting you is going to depend on when your actual renewal date is, A, or B, if you purchase the SKU after that date. Why is the price changing? Microsoft has rolled out over 1,100 new features throughout the 365 suite, including security, Copilot, and SharePoint. And then on top of that, there's just continuous innovation throughout the Microsoft environment as a whole. It's been expanded year over year, and now it's creating a more AI-driven, more centralized focus on security that's going to allow you to protect your investments a little bit more across the board as a whole. With that, most licenses are going to be affected and impacted by this. Everyone from your business basic, standard, enterprise, and then even the government and nonprofits are going to be seeing some changes with that as well. With that, not all bad things come with a price increase. There are a lot of new products that are going to be entering the Microsoft suites coming July 1st as well. Each suite is going to be having specific features and functionality added to it. Everything from Copilot Analytics for your Office and Enterprise E1 and E3. On top of that, safe links as well. With this, not only are the full suites receiving upgrades, but also standalone components are getting some additional features as well. Like I mentioned, these are going to be rolling out dependent on when you actually purchase that license. And then for people that actually have these licenses already, an existing license, they will have these features just rolled into them as well. If you renew prior to that July 1st date, you will still get access to these features when that happens. On Frontline, you're going to get some Copilot chat enhancements along with some more analytics, and then some bigger features in the business suites, 50 additional gigabytes in mailbox, which I know a lot of people have been really wanting. So no additional add-ons needed there, and the same additional safe links and Copilot chat enhancements for Business Premium as well.
So it's not just about cost, there's a whole lot of added benefit coming to it as well.
Exactly. Yeah, big questions though. Here's just a 180-foot overview, top 6 questions that we've seen coming in so far. Why is Microsoft increasing pricing again? In short, this really isn't another price increase. There have been some additional billing switches based off of priority billing plans that have rolled out recently. However, from a broad Microsoft spectrum, this is pretty much the first broad increase we've seen in 4 years. There also are some additional values being added across the board as well. As I mentioned a couple times, July 1st is going to be that cutoff date for the new pricing across the board as well, along with the licenses that are going to be affected by this. You'll see based off of each license that you're actually utilizing, you'll see anywhere from a 5 to a 33% increase, depending on what that plan is. Yes, that does sound steep, but based off of some of these costs and these licenses, it can be cents on the dollar in what you're actually seeing and what's passed on to the end user. And then do you have options to reduce the impact? Of course. One of the biggest reasons why you're here with us, as well as why we bring the value that we bring outside of that, So being able to optimize your environment, eliminating unused seats and consolidation are going to be a huge aspect of what we do and how TrustedTech team is able to help you. Awesome.
Great information. Great information. So that was kind of an overview, but we'd like to go a little deeper in kind of comparing some of these different SKUs and what might be right for in which situation. So I'm going to hand it over to Andrew to kind of take us down this path.
Thanks, Heath. Appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, now we kind of have the 30,000-foot overview of what's coming down the pike when it comes to not only price increases, but the features that are going to be included in a lot of these core suite licenses. What we like to do here at TrustedTech, specifically on the dedicated account management side, is figure out what your roadmap is within Microsoft, right? So for example, we are not going to recommend an ME5 to every single Microsoft 365 tenant, right? There's kind of this linear progression of Microsoft features that you are eventually going to be utilizing. For example, if you're a tenant with less than 300 users, we're going to recommend the Business Premium, right? Comes with core productivity and the essential security that you need to have the peace of mind of knowing that you are protected with Microsoft Defender within conditional access policies and Entra ID, and that you have basic mobile device management capabilities with Intune. Moving up the line, more of an enterprise-grade productivity, compliance, and baseline security SKU is the Microsoft 365 E3 license, right? This is more for those tenants that are growing in size. Maybe you're having some acquisition. Overall, your user base is growing above 300 users, and you need some more enterprise-level features that come included without breaking the bank, right? This includes more complex conditional access policy integration, as well as just getting a little bit more granular with mobile device management. The big thing that comes in the Microsoft 365 E3 product as well is you're getting Windows 11 Enterprise Complementary Upgrade rights too. So you can see kind of where the progression is going. And then, of course, what I like to call the Ferrari of Microsoft licensing is the Microsoft 365 E5, right? This comes with all the bells and whistles when it comes to advanced security, analytics, and then, of course, AI-powered protection. So with the Business Premium and the ME3, you're getting more reactive elements of Microsoft Defender. Pushing everything into ME5, you're going to get really proactive, right? So high-level compliance policy integration, you're getting Microsoft Defender XDR capabilities, super high-level identity protection, and then, of course, real-time insights as those threats are coming into your environment. So you can see not every license is geared towards everyone. Depending on where you're at in your Microsoft journey, there is a roadmap that we like to go through for our customers. Going back to what Andrew Castro alluded to in the previous section here, not all price increases are bad, right? We are seeing value that's being added to these big three core suites, right? I would argue that the vast majority of our clients who are security and compliance focused are either on the Business Premium, the ME3, or the ME5. Starting with the Microsoft 365 E3, I mean, you're getting $14.50 of extended value alone come July 1st, 2026, right? There's only going to be a $3 price increase on this license, but you're getting $14.50 of value that's going to be included. So just from a high level, Intune Plan 2, Intune Remote Help, Intune Advanced Analytics, and then of course MDO Plan 1. Those SKUs a la carte amount to about $14.50 of value that's going to be included for only $3 more. Same thing with the ME5, right? The ME5, you're going to be getting, moving forward, 400 security copilot credits per month per user that has an ME5 assigned, and you're getting the full Intune suite. That's $11.60 of additional value, and the ME5 is only going up by $3, right? And then, of course, the Business Premium. People have been asking me a lot about the Business Premium. Technically, there is no price increase on this specific SKU come July, but you are getting a 100 gigabyte mailbox, active mailbox increase, and that's $2 in value alone, right? So essentially, you're getting $2 in value without a actual price increase. And this kind of leads beautifully into the next slide here, in which we chat about some of the big updates that are coming to the Business Premium as well, outside of cost. A lot of my clients have been coming to me and they're basically saying, hey, Andrew, I know the Business Premium isn't going to see a price increase. Does that mean I'm losing features? The short answer is no, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, you're really only gaining features, and Microsoft moving forward is really incentivizing the smaller enterprise businesses to adopt more complex Defender and compliance features, right? So you can see through this infographic here, Microsoft is now offering business premium specific Defender Suite add-ons and compliance add-ons, right? And you can see they're heavily incentivizing users to adopt these because of all the promotions that they're running, right? So for example, Purview Suite for Business Premium, you can get it up to 50% off until the end of March. All you really need is a business premium license assigned in your tenant, or a Copilot for Business license. So you can see they're really heavily incentivizing the security and compliance fee piece for their smaller enterprise customers. That way they don't have to break the bank and move into something like a Microsoft 365 E5. So a lot of good things coming for smaller businesses, specifically when it comes into the Microsoft stack.
Now it's a meeting. I tried to talk on mute. That is great information. Thanks, both Andrews. I'm so glad we have you here so I don't have to memorize all that stuff like you guys do. That promo is really, really exciting. And that's one of the things our team works very hard to do is help you take advantage of those different promotions to make it as cost effective as possible. But let's talk about, okay, that's great information. We kind of now know what's changing, the added features we're getting, maybe some price adjustments as well. But what you can see is you're getting a lot more for a lot less, for a low increase. But there are some different strategies around that renewal and different options you can take to make sure you're really maximizing what you're doing to meet your needs. And our team loves to work on get on with customers and have those conversations. So I'm going to hand it back to Andrew Ramos to kind of take us to the next level.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks, Heath. I mean, one of the big things when it comes to the changes that Microsoft is making is starting to be more proactive in how you discuss as an IT department within an organization on how you're going to plan for a lot of this stuff, right? So we always recommend, hey, we want you to start early. We understand that organizations have budgets. We got to make the numbers make sense, like you said, Heath, at the front end of the call. So step one is always planning at least a year and a half before your renewal, right? Obviously, here at TrustedTech, we are setting up quarterly business reviews with our clients just to ensure that, we're getting them the Microsoft updates that they need in a timely fashion. But internally, it's important to figure out, okay, when first things first, when is our Microsoft 365 licensing renewal, and how can we plan leading up to that date, right? Because as you now know, when it comes to quantity adjustments, that's really when you're going to be able to trim the fat of the tenant, right? Once you have that budget established, then from there, you can start looking at aligning that renewal timeline with the planning of the financial department and considering upgrades, maybe downgrades, depending on what you're looking at from a licensing perspective, and going from there. The third thing, right, is essentially just considering upcoming price changes or licensing shifts. I think we lost the slide here for a second. There we go. Yeah, so just essentially considering, just back one, I believe. There we go. Perfect. Step 3, right? Considering the price changes or the licensing shifts, which is what we're here to discuss today, which we kind of gave you a bird's eye view of. And then from there, leveraging your renewal milestones as checkpoints. That's what I talked about when it came to like QBRs or overviews with our clients, just to make sure that things are being utilized in the way that they should be utilized, right? For example, if you're looking to upgrade from Business Premium to an ME3 or an ME5, we want to make sure that 90 days down the road, 180 days down the road after your renewal, you're utilizing the features that we originally discussed in your licensing consultation, right? So that's when we say start early, plan, and then be proactive when it comes to making those decisions. So you can kind of see like the framework that we take here at TrustedTech, right? I always, and I say this with clients all the time, there's really 3 main aspects of having a continuous Microsoft or renewal discussion. First things first is your business is going to grow, right? That comes with growing pains, but overall it's a good problem to have, whether you're acquiring new businesses or your user count is growing. Maybe you have new business units that are being introduced to the business, right? Your priority is making sure, first things first, the people who are getting hired have a license so that they have access to the Microsoft stack, right? and going from there, right? Once those users are in the tenant and that you have the peace of mind of knowing that they're licensed, our job here at Trusted Tech is to come in and optimize and guide you to what license is going to work best for what your roadmap is. So, for example, you're on Business Premium right now. You guys just made an acquisition of a company for 200 users. You're probably going to need ME3 now, right? So this is during renewal. It's our job to help you right-size the licensing, figure out what security is needed, whether you're using third-party cybersecurity software products or not, and what the opportunity cost is of consolidating some of those security benefits into Microsoft. Once we've decided what's going to work best for you, then we go into the upgrades, right? ME3 to ME5 or ME3 paired with Microsoft Defender Suite. That's really where the value comes in, and then it's our job to make sure you're utilizing those features, of course. Perfect. So Castro, I'll pass it over to you. I apologize. There's two Andrews here, so I'm going to refer to you as Castro. When would it make sense for some of our clients to stay on an E3 or business premium as opposed to moving all the way up to an E5, right? Because being the Ferrari of Microsoft licensing, it gets pretty expensive pretty quickly. So
It gets expensive quickly, and there's also a lot of questions that you need to ask internally. Every single company, every single situation is going to be completely different. That's why we like to say that no renewal is going to be a cookie cutter renewal. We need to take a step back, understand what those needs are, understand what the company is looking to drive to, and understand where you're trying to be not only in 12 months, but also 24, 36 months down the line as well. So understanding what the risk profile is, what you're going to need to be taking on, also understanding what you're looking to adopt and what you're looking to bring into the picture as well. When you start to uncover these layers of the different upgrades that Microsoft E5 can have, you have to ask the questions of if you're set up for success from a whole, not only from your internal IT team, but also understanding if that meets your needs. So making sure that you have the existing investment protected, but also you're looking to grow and expand what you're currently utilizing is a big question a lot of these companies have and have to go through and evaluate as a whole. You can take these additional add-ons to potentially make the right fit for you as well. Maybe you don't need the full E5 system. You only need the Entra ID P2 and security features, or Power BI is what you need as well. You don't always have to take everything and have it bundled all into the E5, because what you'll see is you're paying for some features that you may not necessarily need across the board. However, there also are some certain situations where I see add-ons being abused to a certain degree, to where you have so many add-ons where it just makes sense to consolidate into an E5 as well. So depending on what that need is, and that's where our licensing experts come into play as well, we assess that situation for you and come up with a plan that's specific to what your needs are.
Great information. Thank you so much. Now, obviously, as you saw when we started this session, we talked about 12 to 15 months is when you should start planning. We're talking a great deal about a change that's happening July 1st. Obviously, we're within that. That being said, we'd like to kind of hear from you when your renewal cycle is and how soon are you looking at having to make some of those renewal decisions. So we did put a poll up here just to kind of get you to start thinking about that timing. Go ahead and start answering that. And while you're answering that, we will go ahead and continue on to the next section. This is one that's definitely near and dear to my heart, security and compliance and how that impacts renewals. We saw there's a lot of security and compliance enhancements being made to the licenses. So I think this is a really valuable topic for us. So I'm going to hand it off to Anton to take us through this.
Awesome. Thank you, Heath. So, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about the E5 and when it makes sense to upgrade a user from, say, a business premium or E3 into the E5 suite. As Andrew Castro just mentioned, a full E5 upgrade is not always the best for everybody in your organization. So really, when we're talking about E5, it's best to discuss a more phased approach where you're hand selecting a number of people in your environment that really would benefit from all of the security and compliance features in the E5 versus those that are fine on just the business premium or the E3. So we'll be looking at broad security requirements such as advanced threat detection and compliance controls that are included in the E5. We'll talk about tool consolidation, right? If you do adopt E5, you can also potentially eliminate some third-party redundancy, which is going to drive down your spend and simplify your day-to-day management of your IT stack. We'll talk a little bit about operational efficiency and establishing a measurable ROI when you upgrade to an E5. There are a lot of executive leaders that look at the cost impact and the ROI, so we'll touch on that, and then we'll finish up with future readiness. All right, so first we'll discuss E5 and the advanced threat protection and identity controls that are included. And I want to start by reiterating what Andrew Castro mentioned. This conversation should be anchored in the reality that the goal is not to just upgrade people and downgrade people simply because of some price adjustments. That's typically not the right move, especially if you're concerned with security. Instead, the goal should be to be intentional and use E5 where it reduces meaningful risk or replaces other spend, and then keep the rest of your base, your user base on the business premium or the office or frontline SKUs where it makes sense. So starting on the threat protection side, E5 is great because it brings together signals from a bunch of different endpoints and identities and other cloud activities. So security teams aren't stuck trying to stitch together incidents from across multiple tools. This is important because the advanced threat protection will typically lead to faster detection and response times, and it can reduce the costs of incidents overall. And on the identity side of E5 is where you unlock stronger identity controls like risk-based conditional access, identity protection, and privileged access management. So those are valuable when you're trying to protect admin activity from and prevent account takeover. So the pricing and optimization takeaway there would just be E5 makes the most sense for users who create a lot of risk, and it doesn't make sense for every employee. And now we'll talk about, quantifying some security exposure when you stay on E3. So E3 provides a great baseline of security. There is a lot of security that is included in E3, but it is a baseline. So the risk if you stay on an E3 versus upgrading to an E5 isn't that you have no security. It's just that risks can go undetected for longer, which means your team has more legwork and manual labor to do to investigate and contain potential incidents. So first, we'll talk about identity-based attacks, things like credential theft and risky sign-ins. Those are harder to catch and respond to if you're doing them manually, versus if you have some of the automated processes through an E5, you're getting ahead of the ball and you're identifying those threats quicker. The second is response effort. Without some advanced investigation and automation tools, response again becomes manual, and it can just increase the amount of time it takes to resolve an incident. And then lastly is visibility across tools. When you upgrade to an E5, you have a lot more visibility across all of your endpoints and cloud activity. And because you're pulling together all of those signals into one location, it's just a lot easier to manage for visibility. So E3 can absolutely be a good license from a security standpoint, but the decision to stay on an E3 versus upgrade to an E5 should be intentional, and you just want to understand what your tolerance for exposure risk is. And now this is my favorite: compliance, automated labeling, and e-discovery. It's so exciting. No, but in reality, compliance is a big part of the conversation when you're talking about security. Security, compliance, and governance all go hand in hand. So we'll kind of discuss a bit about automated labeling and e-discovery and how it can assist you in regulated environments. So as I mentioned before, E3 does provide foundational capabilities like baseline retention and audit support, but it again leads to manual reactive compliance, whereas E5 will shift that model to automation and policy-driven enforcement. So E5 strengthens your automated data classification and labeling. So you don't have to do all of those processes manually. And it adds advanced e-discovery. So that will just improve your legal and regulatory readiness. As well, something that E5 will enable you to do is improve your insider risk when you're auditing for insider risk. And all of those extra security features will help reduce compliance risk and also reduce manual overhead. And then talking just a little bit more about data governance, E3, you will get foundational governance, so basic retention policies, user-driven classification, so it's not automated. And with E5, the governance becomes far more automated and policy-driven. So you're setting the policy through the tools, and then those policies will automate when it comes to your data classification and labeling. So E3 will support governance awareness, but E5 will enforce governance at scale.
Which, for those of you looking at Copilot Chat or other AI technologies, that auto classification can be a lifesaver, because most of the exposure risk is not malicious in nature. It's quite often it's accidental exposure. That auto classification can help you protect that kind of situation from occurring and being surfaced by your AI tools.
Yeah, Heath, didn't you have an incident where you were working with a customer in Copilot and there were some security concerns?
We did. We had a customer who we were actually having a conversation about Purview as a way to better secure their Copilot chat. And they said, well, do we really need it? And I said, I'm going to take a risk. We did a live demo and I had them go to their Copilot chat environment and type SSN, just because we know social security numbers are a common thing that we don't want shared out there. And Copilot chat returned a nice message from their CISO talking about the importance of protecting information such as SSNs. And then down below that, it shared a list of files that were relevant to that search term, which included all of the social security numbers for one of their offices. So it was needless to say, they ended up asking us to deploy Purview for them the next day. So it is a pretty common thing because it's not intentional. And that's what I say, that auto classification where it's automatically detecting and determining that's sensitive data, and you can tell AI, I don't want you to return results for sensitive data. It kind of protects you from those kind of things.
Perfect. So driving it home, talking a little bit more about compliance requirements and audit readiness. With E5, like I mentioned, organizations move from reactive compliance to continuous defensible approach through those automation tools. So E5 will provide deeper audit visibility, stronger investigation tools through advanced e-discovery, more consistent enforcement through data retention and labeling, and added coverage for insider risk. But with that, I'll pass it back over to Heath so we can continue to talk about the cost and value analysis.
Well, it's wonderful. It sounds like Anton's already introduced this section. Yes, cost and value analysis. Obviously, all these things, there are costs associated with them. As I discussed before, it's no longer the .com days. So we need to make sure that we're getting the value for that cost. And that's one thing our licensing folks on this call and beyond do focus on a lot. We don't want you to buy licenses when you're not going to get the value out of them. We want you to get the right license for the value you're trying to achieve. So as such, I'm going to start out actually with what I promise is the last poll. And this question is, how far in advance do you typically start the strategic review for your Microsoft renewal? So we talked about the Super Bowl. We talked about what you're currently using. We talked about where you are in your new renewal cycle. And now it's time to talk about how far in advance we are looking.
I think we already touched on that as well, Heath.
Did we? Okay. My apologies. So then I'm going to hand it right back off to Andrew.
Thanks, Heath. Appreciate it. I mean, look, realistically, it's a good, especially when it comes to this section in the cost and value analysis side of things. It's good to figure out and kind of start driving home, okay, when should we start looking at this stuff, right? Because I don't want you, Andrew Castro doesn't want you, or really none of the dedicated account management team here at Trusted Tech. We want you to look beyond price tags when it comes to licensing, right? This shouldn't be something where, 5 days before the licensing renewal, your reseller reaches out and says, hey, you want to make any license quantity adjustments before you renew for another year with Microsoft? No, right? This is a strategic investment. I always like to joke and say, do you need Microsoft? Yes or no? And for 95%, 90+% of businesses in America, that answer is yes, right? So you're going to be investing at least some form of your IT spend into Microsoft, right? To the extent that you do that, right, that's where we can come in as your trusted advisor and really start honing in what the total cost of ownership for your IT stack is, right? Because there's probably other third-party tools within the cybersecurity software space that you guys are utilizing. Think CrowdStrike for endpoint protection, maybe Barracuda or Proofpoint or Mimecast for email protection. Well, we know that a lot of these features are going to be coming included in the licensing moving forward on the Microsoft side. So it's very possible that we can consolidate a lot of the third-party spend that you have into the Microsoft stack. You're still going to get the same value, right? But you're going to be dropping the overall cost of what you're spending in IT, and that's going to allow you to open up your budget to invest in other things, whether it's project-based work or another software that you guys were really looking forward to owning. And that's really where we come in, right? Even though the E5 carries a higher per user cost than the E3, it really consolidates all of those advanced security and compliance features that Anton beautifully summarized in the previous section. So it's something to take a look at. Another big thing about the Microsoft 365 E5 license specifically is it's not just security and compliance that comes included in a SKU like that. If you guys are using Teams as your voice over IP system, right? The Teams Phone Standard license comes included in the ME5. If you guys are utilizing Power BI Pro for business intelligence and data analytics and visualizations, Power BI Pro comes included in the ME5, right? So you can quickly see here, it's more of a holistic way of looking at Microsoft licensing in general. And depending on what you're utilizing in your stack, it depends on what license is going to work best for you, right? And looking at the total cost of ownership, you should look through everything. What else am I spending money on in my IT budget outside of Microsoft? How much work are my IT administrators putting into managing this stuff, right? That's a whole other ROI analysis on its own. And then, of course, what happens if we do get breached, or what are the response costs associated to a possible incident from a security perspective? These are all things you guys should be looking at when it comes to not only Microsoft, but the IT infrastructure in general. So here it is, right? Cost savings through licensing analysis. The big place you're going to unlock savings is, of course, utilizing a CSP like TrustedTech to make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck for the licensing that you do need. Reducing overlapping tools like the CrowdStrikes, like the other email protection platforms and things of that nature. Of course, strategically mixing either E3s or business premiums or E5s, depending on what specific user needs what features. And then, of course, eliminating underutilized licenses. You would be amazed at how many people, we chat with at renewal. And there's a lot of licenses that really just aren't assigned in the tenant. That alone is a cost saving in and of itself. And if you guys are just constantly auto-renewing without doing audits of users, that's money that's being left on the table. And that's something that here at TrustedTech, we do a lot, right? And then, of course, if you're coming to the finance department and asking for more money because you want to upgrade to an E5, you have to really drive home what the return on investment is. Consolidation of security, less risk, less incidents in general, making it easier for your IT admins to essentially make it more efficient for them to work, less manual security. That's hours that your team is getting back in their day. So those are all things from a high level you guys have to look at, and what we can assist with.
Awesome. Another level of that is bundling as a whole. So taking a look at the renewal process, taking 100 or 360-foot overview of everything across the board, understanding the right time to do things and why renewal is such a great time to take advantage of that. Obviously, there's so many different add-ons that your tenant can come into, and adding one license at a time for a specific user, and then taking that time to take a step back, review the whole process, and understand that there is consolidation points as well. Microsoft also does a great job at adding specific bundling features that you're able to tap into as a whole, such as the Copilot bundle that just released for a couple business level licensing, and then shifting that whole conversation into alignment into a greater strategy of what the company's end goals are. That way you can track the ROI, something that leadership loves to do and take advantage of as well, so they can justify why this is going to be such a good investment for their company as a whole. You're able to have one clear strategy that is able to provide either enhanced security, and then either if AI is a huge drive for you as well, this is a great opportunity to take advantage of that as a whole. That conversation transitions into, how do I have this conversation to leadership of, I need to expand what we're currently utilizing. We already have some tools that we're not sure how we can consolidate it. That's where our team comes into play as well. We're able to take a look at everything that you're utilizing, not only from the cost perspective, but from a business impact, consolidate, view risk, and then consolidate into risk reduction as a whole, compliance, you name it. We specialize in so many different verticals that these conversations can go really in any different direction. So having these conversations to make sure that your team is getting exactly what they're looking to do, and have the different side-by-side cost scenarios for the individual add-ons, whether it's a compliancy issue, you're in the right spot, and our team's here to take great care of you. That's going to transition into, okay, now we have everything bundled in, we got our renewal taken care of. What's that next step? And that's where our team was able to go from as well.
It's great to have all this new features at your fingertips, but are you actually using it? It's great to be licensed for Purview, but have you set it up so it's actually being used to help secure and make your organization more compliant? Well, that's where post-renewal optimization comes in. And so I'm going to hand it back off to Anton to kind of chat about this.
Awesome. Thank you, Keith. So now that we've talked about choosing the right licensing mix, right? Your renewal has come and gone. You've sat down, you've took a look at your licenses, you've decided who is going to stay on Business Premium E3, who's going to move to E5, and you've done that refresh to move people around as needed. The optimization portion has been an ongoing conversation. That's really just the starting point. So the ROI post-optimization comes from intentional deployment and adoption and ongoing optimization. So just getting full use of the licenses that you guys are purchasing. So way early on, Andrew Ramos had that nice chart of the breakdown of the E3 plus all of the added features, and the E5 plus all of the added features that are going to take effect in July this year. It's amazing that we're getting more included in those bundles. That's a lot of added value, but without a post-renewal plan, especially with advanced security and compliance tools like the ones that are in E5s, many organizations end up paying for features that never get fully implemented. And those features just become shelfware, right? They're sitting there, dusty, unused. And at that point, you might as well stay on a business premium because you're not making use of most of the stuff that you're buying. So the goal post-renewal is simple. Take what you're purchasing and turn it into measurable outcomes. So stronger security posture, right? Everyone has a Microsoft Secure Score. If you've upgraded to an E3 or an E5 from a business premium, see how it impacts your secure score. That is a measurable business outcome. Additionally, you can track things like your response times to threats before and after an upgrade, right? That's a measurable outcome that can help you determine the ROI on an upgrade to an E3 or an E5. So having those sorts of measurable outcomes are things that you can take back to your leadership team and know that you're getting the maximum for the licenses you're purchasing.
100%. Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, Anton. Are you guys having more or less security incidents after implementing these features, right? How quickly are you guys getting pings when it comes to the threats? From a compliance perspective, how quickly can you get an audit spun up from a readiness perspective? How much money are you guys saving in the consolidation of tools? How much time are your admins spending? Are they spending more time or less time when it comes to these, little minute details in security management? And then, of course, one of the big things we like to focus on here, especially on Heath's side, right, with the professional services team, is figuring out feature usage rates, right? How many people are actually utilizing Purview? How many people are actually utilizing Microsoft Defender? If you're implementing AI, how many people are actually utilizing Copilot Chat, right? And that's something that, you know, we've assisted with time and time again with Heath's, you know, direction, of course, on the professional services side. Heath, I know today we're focusing on licensing and pricing strategy, but here at Trusted Tech, your team is implementing all of these features and more when it comes to the licensing.
There's a lot of areas our team helps with. First and foremost, we try to meet our customers where they are. So ultimately, we'll create a completely bespoke offering for you as necessary for professional services. Some of our customers basically want to give us the keys and say, let me know when it's done. Other customers want more strategic guidance. And then there's a lot of customers that come in somewhere in the middle. We can help you with these features so that you are kind of getting what you need from us. We always recommend, especially if you're new to some of these technologies, our engagements always come with a level of administrative training so that once again, you know how to use the technology when we're done, because at the end of the day, it's your environment and you're responsible for it. And so we try to go through that route. Areas we do see a lot is some of the features we talked about. I gave the example around Purview and how it kind of impacts Copilot, but also kind of what was touched on. It's great you have these new bundles, but if you're still paying for overlapping third-party tools, then you're not taking the maximum advantage of it. You know, if you're still paying for Proofpoint and now you have Defender, well, do you really need to still be paying for Proofpoint? And that's fine if you do. There's customers that still take these bundles because the value's still there in the bundles while they're still paying for some of those third parties. But we'd love to have that conversation with you to make sure you are really optimizing what you have for your business. And that's the one thing that's important. Things makes difference. It's different. Every business is different and have different kind of core requirements. And what one customer puts a high value on, another customer may not. And that's where we like to kind of work with you to make sure we're getting you the right solution for you. But don't take it from us. And we can sit here and talk about these things all day. And I can tell you my team's awesome. They are. And I can tell you how awesome our licensing teams are. They are. But let's listen for what a customer said about us.
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk about, I mean, obviously we have so many success stories, but I just wanted to highlight one in particular. We had the pleasure of working with Mike over at Illumin. So Mike was their manager of IT. And when we first spoke with Mike a few years ago, he came to us with a familiar challenge. That is that he is a one-man IT shop. And in his case, he was managing about 200 users and 200 endpoints spread across the US and Canada. So as he put it, managing the monster that is Microsoft licensing was just becoming, especially because he was a one-man show. I know that resonates with a lot of people because I speak with those people every day. But Mike connected with our team with a few goals. One was to clarify the Microsoft licensing. Hey, here's what I'm looking to achieve. What is the right license that's going to get me there? Two, obviously, he wanted to reduce spend. Unlike some other people, his budget wasn't unlimited, so he had to work within the bounds of that budget. I know that there's a lot of people that have unlimited budgets out there and they can spend money on whatever they want, and it's great to be those people. But unfortunately, the rest of us live here on Earth. So we have limited budgets that we have to stay within, and Mike wanted to reduce his spend. And then lastly, he just needed support when he needed support. Like so many people, he's pretty self-sufficient. You know, he's competent enough to tackle issues as they arise. But when he needed help, he needed responsive help. So those were his three things that he was looking for. The outcome after engaging with our team, one, we sat down with Mike, we took a look at his licensing, and we helped to right-size Illumin's M365 environment. So we helped them realize a 30% reduction in their Microsoft spend. Next, when we were talking about support, we also reduced his support spend by about 50% compared to the support that he was getting previously with another provider. On top of that, our support team is phenomenal here. So not only are we saving money on Mike's support, we're also way more responsive, and we just get to those resolution times a lot faster. And lastly, we still meet with Mike quarterly as we do quarterly business reviews, just to keep him apprised of changes from Microsoft. Price increases, changes in what products are included in what bundles, how it's going to impact his environment specifically, and just to see if there's any way that we can continue to help Mike optimize and keep his environment as clean as possible. So one story out of many, but it's a common story nonetheless, and we're happy to have those conversations every day.
And speaking of those conversations, that's exactly what we're offering all our attendees today as an M365 licensing conversation. This is a no cost, no obligation to you service that we're willing to provide. We're going to get to know you, your environment, understand your requirements, take a look at what your future licensing could look like. How do we optimize the cost, make recommendations around optimizing those costs, security, any kind of renewal planning. If we think about it, we have 5 months. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about 5 months and 4 days until the new pricing goes into effect. Let us help you get a hold of it, ahead of it. Once again, no cost, no obligation to you. And to sign up for that, if we go to the next slide, you'll see a button on the screen. And you can click on Talk to an Expert, which will basically take you to a form you'll fill out and you'll be contacted. And I see some of you are really on top of it. We already have people clicking on the link already. So hopefully that's a good sign. You're ready to get a hold of your licensing conversation. We're here to help. Are there any questions? I know we had one. We do sometimes, you know, when you work in the Microsoft ecosystem, we get a little acronym driven. And yes, I know it was answered in the Q&A, but if anybody else had that question, when we referred to like MDO Plan 1, that's Microsoft Defender for Office. Does anybody else have any other questions? I know this is very thorough by everybody, but has anything come up? Or based on what I'm seeing for registrations, I'm guessing you're going to ask those questions during your license consultation.
I think I wanted to point out real quick, Heath, MDO Plan 1, obviously Microsoft Defender for Office 365 Plan 1, since that's now going to be included in the ME3, we've been given kind of direction on within the admin center, actually, about 30 days before that license is essentially turned on. You guys are going to see a little banner pop up within your M365 admin center. Okay. About 30 days before, it's going to let you know, hey, in 30 days, you will have access to Microsoft Defender for Office Plan 1 capabilities. So just going into July 1st, keep an eye on that. Right around June, I would say, look out for that banner directly within your M365 admin center so you know when you're able to turn on those policies and start integrating Defender.
Great information. And I see a question here. What promotions do you see customers taking the most? I'm summarizing, paraphrasing a little bit, so bear with me. What promotions do you see as the most valuable and you see the customers are really getting the most benefit from?
I'll jump in here. There are some ongoing promotions. I think there's one that's going to go until the end of March, and it is called a Do More with Less, which is like a promotion for E3 and E5 licensing. And for organizations that may be strictly on business premium, but they're exploring a move to an E3, or they're on an E3 exploring to a move to an E5, there are some really good promotions because Microsoft wants you to explore those license, get to know the license, see how it's going to impact your environment. And it's really an incentive that's provided to get you to try it out. So what we'll typically do when it comes to promotions is when we sit down with someone and we're taking a look at their licenses, we'll also check with Microsoft to see what promotions there are for various products. And we'll come to the table with a recommendation, right? If we feel like a license is going to add value, we'll let you know what promotions are out there so you can make an informed decision. But E3, E5 promotions are ones that will typically surface, and then sometimes there's stuff for Copilot, and I know there's new Copilot bundles and bundles for Business Premium. So we'll always double check and make sure that we can find something from Microsoft that's going to help you out.
And the other thing I'd add in there too is we actually get a lot of because we maintain all core solution, all 6, actually 7 now solution designations from Microsoft, which gives us access to some funding programs that we can pass on to our customers from the services side of that as well. So if you choose to do your licensing through us, if you choose to potentially do any professional service through us, we will make sure that we are getting you every dime extra we can from Microsoft, both in the licensing and the delivery of those services. So it's very exciting. Oh, I see another question came in. I noticed that you haven't mentioned business standard. Is that an indication that the licensing option is going away?
I can jump in here. That's a very good question, and business standard is great to get your feet wet when it comes to the Microsoft space, and you don't need too many security capabilities. Make no mistake, the license is not going away. You don't have to worry about that. There will be a price increase though on the business basic and the business standard as well coming July 1st. Okay. The business basic and the business standard, along with the business premium, will include an additional 50 gigabytes of active mailbox. Of course, so now all of those business core suites will have 100 gigabyte active mailbox. Part of the reason I think it's important to kind of touch on the business standard briefly is just because there really are no security benefits that come included in that license. Now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, you have to look at security and the IT budget in general from a holistic perspective, right? If you're already paying for, cybersecurity software products outside of Microsoft and bundling it with your business standard, that's a different story. But the real value here is outweighing the opportunity cost of maybe going into a business premium, deprecating 1 or 2 of those third-party cybersecurity software solutions that you're utilizing to save cost or to vertically integrate with Microsoft. Of course, the ball's in your court. We're going to make sure that we recommend the best solution for you. But short answer, no, you don't have to worry. Business standard is not going away. It will see a price increase, though.
Is there any benefits or strategies around bundling Copilot with my 365 subscription? With these new pricing increases, what I'm assuming is meant.
Yeah, when it comes to the talking about like the dollars and cents, it will typically be cheaper to bundle them roughly by about $10. I'll have to double check, but just to give you an idea, to buy a bundle of Business Premium and Copilot versus just to buy those licenses separately. It's always something that we can take a look at, and that's just from like a monetary perspective.
Yeah,
This is a question from. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, piggybacking off of Anton as well. A lot of Microsoft customers may not know there are now 2 different Copilot license SKUs, right? There's the Microsoft 365 Copilot for Enterprise, which can only be bundled to like the E3s or the E5s, which is more expensive. And then Microsoft recently announced at their partner event, Ignite, that there is a business version of the Copilot licensing specifically for Business Premium, Business Standard, and Business Basic users. That's substantially cheaper, right? So make sure that if you are using Business Premium, you are getting the right license and getting a Copilot for business SKU.
I prefer less expensive to cheaper. I think but it is more cost effective to bundle with Business Premium than it is through an E SKU. But that was actually what I was going to kind of add before you. So thanks, Andrew. I was going to ask some questions. You answered my question before I could answer it. I could ask it. So any other questions? We got 1 minute left if someone has one question.
I saw there was one question in the QA chat. I know it's a pretty in-depth question. I will try to keep it quick and concise in regards to planning for renewal over 12 to 15 months prior to. And then second tier of that, does Microsoft offer multi-year plans? In short, yes, Microsoft actually just announced certain licensing aspects are going to be able to be locked into a 3-year term. And then on top of that, if you renew for the 3 years next month and then want to add more users in 1 year, the added users will still cost the same price as the one agreed for your existing users. Everything that we're seeing, yes, Microsoft has announced that you will be locked in based on that pricing tier for the next aspect as well for being able to add licenses. However, you are committing to a bulk of licenses for that 3-year term. So you won't be able to decrease under that or have, from the previous enterprise agreement days, a true-up period per se. But great question. Microsoft did just announce that, and that's one of the big aspects our licensing engineers are going to be able to walk you through as well.
Yep,
I was gonna say, Stavros, don't tell all our secrets. Definitely a potential strategy. So we are right at time, and I want to thank everybody for your time today and sticking around with us and asking some great questions. Obviously, for those of you the handful of you that haven't clicked on the Talk to an Expert button, we're leaving it up there, and make sure you capture that link on your way out. And once again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We are here to help. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
team.
you, guys.
Thank you.